Okay, so I know tariffs, 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 but this story jumped out at me in Politico today. It talks about how younger Democrats are actively challenging the party leadership with the sentiment that the older party leaders don't quite understand the world that younger Democrats and younger voters, for that matter, are operating in. Now, what I find most interesting is some of the parallels you can draw between what's going on in the Democratic Party now and what's gone on in the GOP under Trump, and I'm going to explain. Now, we like to think that the United States has a two-party system, but really what we have is a system that clumsily pastes together ideologically different coalitions into two major parties. They're mapped out right up here. This is not my work. This was done by Lee Drutman and the New York Times. Now, what we've seen in true multi-party democracies across the world is that the traditional center-right and center-left parties have lost ground to the far-right and far-left parties, most recently being evidenced by AfD, the far-right German party that won about 20% of seats in government in the last election. Now, in the United States, smaller coalitions don't have the chance to form and challenge the major parties. And as a result, they have to gain traction within one of the two major parties via party primaries. So on the Republican side, we have up here the far right, both Christian conservative and nationalist wings, have really won the party, with the more moderate folks being crowded out. This is why you have a small group of Republicans speaking out against tariffs, and the majority are saying everything's going fine. Now, the Democrats kind of have the opposite problem, which is their establishment centrist wing has really dominated over the past few election cycles at the expense of the progressive wing of the party. These would be the Bernie Sanders and AOCs. So what this article shows us is that this side is making a play to dominate the party platform, much in the way the MAGA wing has become dominant over the GOP. Now, the bigger problem with this is that regardless of which faction wins, there is going to be a group of voters whose concerns go unaddressed. And that's a real problem. One could argue this is exactly what led a lot of working class, traditionally Democratic voters to flip to Trump in 2016 and 2024. Now, primaries are a terrible way to handle policy differences, and a better way to do it would be to eliminate a lot of the barriers that make it difficult for smaller parties to form and challenge the status quo. This would give smaller groups of voters more power and allow us to address problems earlier before they metastasize into something like, the hollowing out of America's industrial belt. One organization I'd recommend you check out that's pushing to implement this kind of system in the United States is Fix Our House. You can find them on fixourhouse.org. I'm not affiliated with their organization, but I'm a big fan of the reforms they're pushing for. And of course, if you want to hear more news on reforms that can help open up America's two-party system to real political competition, drop me a follow. I talk about this stuff all the time.